Welcome. My name is Gunnar Boykin. I'm the offensive line coach and recruiting coordinator here at the University of Central Arkansas. Coach Fodio has asked me today to speak to his class about run game in football for his football coaching class. So that's what we're here to do, and so let's get right to it. First, we're just going to address the basics of run blocking. Um, you know, the running backs get all the stats, they get all the credit for it, but without those, five to sometimes nine, 10 guys in front of them, blocking, those guys wouldn't get very far. So, there's a lot that goes on with run blocking that people don't think about. Everything starts before the ball is even snapped. Okay. So if you're one of those blockers, and we're not just talking about offensive linemen, we're talking about tight ends, fullbacks, even wide receivers, whoever gets involved, in the NFL and in college football, a lot of people get involved in blocking for that ball carrier. Um, but there's some things they have to know when they line up, and that starts with where's the ball going? All right, is it going inside out of me? Is it going outside of me? Do you have help from somebody else? That will change your approach to the block. What is the backfield action? What is the ball carrier doing in the backfield? What is the defender going to do when the ball is snapped? What is his body weight inside? Is it outside? Is he pointed upfield inside? Is he about to slant inside him? And so there's a lot more that goes into it than what people really think about. But that short amount of time before the ball is snapped, that's what's going through the minds of those guys that are lining up to block for that ball carrier. Um, Now, the block itself, uh, you know, everything starts with pad level. When we talk about pad level, it just means being lower than the man in front of you that you're trying to block. The old school approach to this, which, if some of y'all are going to be high school coaches, if you're going to be, junior high coaches, stuff like that, there are still a lot of places out there in high school and even some in college that still take kind of an old school approach um, to the run game. Uh, and in some instances in high schools, especially smaller schools, that's the way to go. It's all about personnel. The old school approach, this may not apply to you. Old school approach, you'd see those guys that had forearm pads on back in the 80s, 70s, stuff like that. Everything that they did to block a defender was, get your shoulder, get your forearms to the defender, and apply pressure to certain points, hips, knees, uh, you know, uh, very low on the body, very downhill type mentality. The modern approach is different from that. In the 90s, starting with, the Houston Oilers and some other teams that really bought into it with the pass game. The pass game has become more and more prevalent if you watch football. Um, so the style of run blocking has changed with that because those guys aren't able to get into 3-point stance anymore with a lot of weight on their hands and just fire off straight ahead in one direction or the other every play. So they have to get in a stance where they can move in 6 to 8 different directions effectively. So the approach to run game blocking has changed. Also, they've changed rules since then about being able to use your hands and grab. So that's also played into it, too. But the modern approach is use your hands, get under the man, just like before, be lower than the other man, but it's a more grab onto the defender, lift and drive the man, not push. Pushing against the guy, you're allowing him to push against you. If you can get his weight up and get him standing up straight, now where his feet aren't behind him, now you can move the defender effectively. So that's what we work on a lot here is just training that movement to get the defender lifted up and then remove him from the area. Uh, Now, there's a lot of different aspects that come into that. Effective blockers have their feet wide, at least shoulder width or wider. Their toes are pointed slightly out, which puts the weight on the insteps of their feet. And that's what you want because that keeps your whole foot on the ground. You aren't leaning on the defender where he can pull you by. Hands want to strike low and inside with palms. We try to go low to high, is what we say. Try to get that defender lifted up. And then our hips are the big part of this. They need to be lower than the defenders on contact, and we talk about rolling our hip through contact. So we're trying to, lift that man just like you would lift a big box. You'd crowd it with your feet, and a big heavy box, and you'd lift it up, you'd have to straighten your hips out, your hip angles out, to get that box lifted off the ground. That's what we're trying to do. All right, and it's all about points of contact with our hands, and our face mask, and then rolling those hips through contact. So that's something we work all the time, even in the off season. You'll see here. This is just in the summer. You'll see we're already in contact with the sled we've got here, and all we're trying to do is work rolling those hips out, getting our arms extended up and through the man. Some guys do it better than others, but that's what we're trying to work. So we're starting right there, attached to the sled. You can see me trying to demonstrate it, and we're trying to get our hips rolled out. I mean, really straighten our hips out. Then we'll work up to, actually, this is a good group. We'll actually work to rolling our hips, then running our feet. And that's what you'll see when you turn the TV on and you see people blocking, offensive lines, tight ends blocking people on TV. When you're watching a football game, this is what you'll see, and this is where they start to, is blocking against a stationary dummy, working that motion, because it's something that's not natural to most people. Offensive line, blocking is not something that is natural, that you're born able to do. You have to train it into yourself. So that's what we work. All right, that right there, we're working base blocks. So that base blocks, by base block, I mean one-on-one blocks. It's one man blocking one man. The schemes we're going to talk about here today, double teams are a big part of that scheme. So offenses in the run game, for the most part, their goal is to try to get as many people on a defender at the point of attack. And by point of attack, I mean that's where the running back or the ball carrier is going with the football. So double teams are big in just about every run offense. Now, there's different types of double teams. There's a bang double team, different techniques. Bang means we're trying to remove the defender from the gap. So, one player is engaging the defender, the other one is trying to knock him out of the gap that he's aligned in, and that, I mean, the space between two blockers. There's the hip double team, which means there's just two defenders. I mean, two offensive players, two blockers, getting hip to hip and using our shoulders and hips together to put two people on one person and remove him from the area. And then there's a help double team where it's really just a base block. It's one-on-one block, but he knows that he can be more aggressive because there's another man coming in case that guy moved and came over the top of him. What are the role of blockers in that? Really, and this is talking about a help type situation, help double team. There's a lead blocker, which is the man that's covered, which means the defender's lined up somewhere inside of his shoulders. And then there's the trail blocker, which is the uncovered man. He's the guy giving help to the lead blocker. Won't get too in depth about that, but that just so you have an understanding of what's going on with the blockers during a run play, because that's where it starts, is up front where there's people blocking, whether it's a offensive lineman, tight end, or receiver, fullback. All right, we'll take a look right here of a couple of examples of those double teams. Here they're running a play that's called duo, which we'll kind of touch on what kind of play that is here in a second. But you'll see right here and right here. All right, you're going to see two double teams. These two guys are going to double team this guy. These two guys are going to double team this guy. You're going to see them, that hip double team, get hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, and try to drive that man off the line of scrimmage, which is right here, even with the ball. All right, so that's what we're going to see here. Duo is a play that's designed to try to get double teams on defenders inside. But you can see right there, hip to hip, driving the guys off the ball. Now, there's hardly any plays anymore. In old school football, there were double teams where these two guys were just in charge of being assigned to that one defender. That's not the case anymore in most instances. Most times you're talking about two guys for two guys, like you have right here. So they're going to get hip to hip. They're going to drive this guy out, and wherever this guy feels, whether he feels this way or that way, one of those offensive linemen is gonna come off on that man when this second defender comes to him. All right, that's called a combo block. All right, and that's what most offenses use now. They can't afford to assign two men just to one guy, so that's what you're going to see when you turn on the football watching modern football for the most part. But you can see it's a combo block, but it's a double team, hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder. They're trying to remove the defenders, and then they're coming off. One of those guys is coming off the double team to one of those, the linebacker that they're working to. Here's another example of that. This is Notre Dame. All right, we'll see right here. These two right here are double teaming this one defender here, and their combo is working back to this backside defender. Hip to hip, that's a hip double team. All right, the other thing we talked about was a bang double team. All right, that's what you're going to see right here. You're going to see two guys. Remember, with a bang double team, they're trying to remove him from the gap he's in, and that's what you're going to see from these two guys right here. All right, they're not trying to get hip to hip and drive him vertical. All right, they're trying to take this guy right here and knock him out of the space that he's in now, to where this guy can be the only one blocking him. Just like that. All right, another example of the bang double team trying to remove that guy. This is Clemson from a couple years ago. These two guys are trying to bang this guy out of his gap where he's aligned right now. Bang him over. Now they're able to free that guy up to get on the linebacker. Great example right there. All right, now we're going to get into schemes. We've talked about a little bit about just the basics of blocking in the run game, but now I want to talk about different schemes. Basically, when you break it all down, there are three real types of run plays out there. All right, there's a ton of different run plays out there, run schemes, but they all fit into three categories. All right, the first one is down and around scheme. All right, some people call this a gap scheme. All right, I've called it that before, but that's basically, they call it that because you have gap assignments on the play side of this play. All right, but basically the gist of that is, we'll get into a second, but we're blocking down and we're pulling somebody around. Zone scheme, we'll get into that in a minute, and then the third one is insert scheme. All right, so let's start breaking those three down and really get into the nuts and bolts of what those three things are. All right, down and around scheme, okay, or gap scheme, like we said. All right, the whole goal of this is to divide the defense, which you'll see it drawn up over there in that picture. But we're trying to divide the defense, split the defense in two. All right, by blocking people down, like what you see right here on the play side of this play, you can see um, everybody on this side is blocking down. Even if they're comboing, they're blocking down the backside guys. All right, then we're pulling other players around, all right, those down blocks, like the fullback and the backside guard here. We're pulling them around as we block these players down. We're pulling them around to kick out defenders here and here. All right, this is an example of a power play, which we'll get into in a minute, but uh, that's the goal of a down and around play. We're trying to divide the defense. We're trying to block some of these players in that direction and block other players in that direction and create space right here for the ball to get there. All right, that's the goal. All right, play side on down and around stuff is typically, depending on what you're running, but this is all going to be gap scheme. All right, gap assignments on the play side, pullers from the backside. But everybody's assigned to the space inside them. So by gap we mean the space from your head to the head of the next blocker inside of you. All right, so that's their assignments there. So if there's somebody lined up in that gap, this is what we're calling the gap. All right, then he's going to block that guy in his gap. That's why some people call it gap scheme, because you have that gap assignment. But down and around, big deal is we're dividing the defense by blocking some out, blocking some down, and creating space there. All right, by pulling people around, down and around. All right, examples of this, in football now, and some from before, are the counter play, which we'll see in a minute. The power play, pin and pull is another big one. The buck sweep is one of those old school ones. Wing T teams, a lot of high school teams, even some college teams. Gus Malzahn, who was at Auburn, now at Central Florida, he's big into buck sweep. And then if you go way back, you're talking about, a lot of this started with, Lombardi and the Packer sweep, which we're not going to see many clips of that, but that's where it all started. All right, so here's a couple examples of down and around scheme plays. All right, so what you're going to see here is we've got counter left here. All right, counter play left. So down and around scheme, we're going to take these players, we're going to block them down because it's the play side. We're going to pull other guys around, all right, to kick out other defenders. All right, so what you're going to see is these guys block down. you're going to see these guys right here pull to kick out defenders, and this guy right here is going to pull and try to kick out that linebacker. All right, lead up in there, but he's trying to drive him that direction to kick him out. All right, the ball carrier is going to get the ball, and he's going to follow basically, right, try to hug this guy right here, this edge down blocker as tight as he can to get what we say vertical, into the line of scrimmage. So let's take a look at it right here. Down and around scheme, the counter play. You'll see the play side block down. All right, you see a bang double team right there, and then you'll see pullers come around. So you'll see our backside guard kick out, our fullback lead up in there to kick out the linebacker, and you'll see the running back on a vertical track to the end zone. That's our goal right there. But you can see how it divides the defense. All right, down and around scheme is different than other ones. We're actually trying to divide the defense right there. You can see the space has been created, by kickouts right here and by down blocks right here, creating space for that running back to get up in there. All right, here is the G play. It's a type of pin and pull play. This is North Dakota State running it. They do a good job with it. But what you're going to see here is it's not going to be this backside guard pulling anymore. It's going to be this play side guard pulling when you're talking about the G or pin pull. You're going to have guys with gap assignments here that are blocking down, and we're dividing the defense the same way. Okay, they're blocking down, backside. We're just trying to keep all these guys backside from getting to the play side over here. All right, and you're going to have this guy pull around to try to kick out this guy who's going to be working over the top. So let's take a look at that real quick. Boom, right there. All right. The running back does a good job of getting in the end zone, but that you can see what happens there. All right, that's the general idea of pin and pull right here. All right, this is the G play. It's a big play in football right now. This is another clip of North Dakota State. North Dakota State has built their entire offense basically for years, and they've been really good at it. The power play. All right, so if you're going into coaching, the power play, I mean, if is an effective run game play. I mean, it is hard nosed. All right, but you're going to see it right here. All right, with power, what you're doing is you're taking this fullback here, and he is the guy kicking out the first guy outside, whoever this guy is out here, whoever the end man on the line of scrimmage is. All right, and then you've got a backside guard pulling to lead on the play side backer. Same thing, down and around. So all these guys play side are blocking down. They're all blocking down. We're dividing the defense by kicking out these guys here, the end men and the linebackers. All right, so that's what we're going to see here. Down and around scheme, you'll see the play side blocking down. All these guys on the play side blocking down. We're kicking out here and here. All right, on the play side to try to divide the defense and create space here, and they do a good job of it. But they run that play, probably 50% of their run plays are power, and everything else is built off of that. That is power run play right there. All right, next thing we're going to talk about, all right, moving on from down and around, is a zone scheme, okay? So before we talked about how, basically with a down and around scheme, you've got blockers moving in two different directions. You've got some of them blocking down, you've got some of them kicking out, but they're moving in two different directions to try to divide the defense. A zone scheme is different, all right? In this scenario, in this type of scheme, you're going to have most of your blockers moving in the same direction. Okay, but the goal is for this play is to create conflict in the defense by displacing defenders. Okay, vertically, just like you do sometimes in gap scheme, but also laterally. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to use what those guys are taught against them. All right, so if these guys are playing base defense, and we'll just take a look at this picture right here. If they're aligned in this gap right here, the gap they're aligned in, they are taught, okay, you're supposed to stay in this gap. You're not supposed to ever get removed from between these two blockers right here. That's what they're taught, and they use several different techniques that I'm sure you've heard about in other presentations. But that's what they do. All right, they're taught to keep their gap integrity. Okay, so zone plays are designed to try to use what they're taught against them. Okay. By trying to remove them from that gap just by us all moving the same direction, basically. And we'll take a look at that as we see some clips. But the big thing when you're watching TV, if you see all these blockers like you can see drawn right here, all moving the same direction, it's probably a zone scheme. Probably a zone scheme. But examples of this, which we'll take a look at, a couple of them are inside zone, all right, or some people call it tight zone, depending on the system. Mid zone, which basically the only difference between inside zone, you're aiming somewhere in here, all right, A gaps. Mid zone, you're probably working somewhere closer to, aiming point of the tackle for the running back. And then wide, outside zone when you're getting really out there. Now you're talking about aiming at tight end or wider. All right, there's debate about that, but whatever. That's pretty much the gist of what you're going to see there. And then there's also speed sweeps, where you're just handing the ball off or tossing the ball to this guy, and he's running hard for the outside, but still everybody's running in that direction to block. We'll see an example of that later. Not blocking it that way, but we'll see a sweep. And there's also duo. I'm sure some people would argue me about this, but duo is essentially, at the end of the day, it is a zone scheme, because all the offensive linemen are moving the same direction. All of them are gap responsible, and so we saw a clip of that earlier. But that's what that is. All right, so let's move on to take a couple looks at it here. Um, all right, so this is the Philadelphia Eagles running inside zone right here, which you'll see all the offensive linemen moving in the same direction. Now this guy back here, he's going to be working across to come kick this guy out. That's not that doesn't It's still zone scheme. You can see all the up front guys working the same direction. All right, and basically they're responsible across the board when it comes right down to it. Is there anybody in that space to their play side? If there is, block it. Okay. This guy's just taking care of whoever's filling this backside, what we call the C gap. All right. So right here, you can see him moving all in the same direction. This is inside zone because you can tell that because the aim point of the back, he's aiming somewhere towards the center right here. All right. Inside zone, some call it tight zone. Boom. Inside zone. All of them moving the same direction. All right, outside zone, all right, or some would call wide zone. Okay, the Rams and the 49ers, in at least today, are two of the best teams in the league at running this. I mean, their entire system, their one real run play that they run 80+% of the time is outside zone, wide zone. Their aiming points more towards the tight end. If they're working the tight end side, if they're working to a side that doesn't have a tight end, they're aiming at where the tight end would be. All right, so that's why we say it's differentiate wide zone and inside zone. This guy back here, the ball carrier, is aiming at a different point. That's where they're trying to clear space, is the aim point of the back. All right, so let's take a look at it here. A little wide zone. All right, you can see all the offensive linemen moving the same direction right here. The tight ends moving the same direction. They are trying to clear this space out somewhere between here and here, depending on the team. All right, but it's somewhere wider than the tackle's hip. So you'll see the running back aiming at that point. All right, you can see he goes inside of that guard right there, this guy right here, but he's aiming. If you look at the markings on the field, he's aiming somewhere out here, all right, somewhere wider than these tick marks going up the field right here. All right, so it may appear that he's going inside that guard, but you can see that he hits his aiming point, kind of where the tight end started. So that's why we say it's wide zone. All right, it doesn't always mean it's going wider than those blockers, but it does mean that he's going to hit it where those blockers started. So when you're watching football on TV, those are some things to pay attention to. Uh, Next thing, moving on from zone scheme is insert scheme. All right, so we've gone through where we're trying to divide the defense with blocking down and kicking out. We've gone through where we're trying to just create space, smaller seams in the defense by, putting them out of their gaps with zone scheme. Now we're talking about, really just going and putting one defender in a bad situation and making him beat a lead blocker. Okay, this is insert scheme. All right, it divides the defense with one-on-one blocks, as you'll see in this diagram here. We got guys blocking one-on-one right here. Sometimes it involves double, but for the most part, we're talking about men assigned to one man. So right here, and then we're taking a blocker and we're inserting him for one of those linebackers, one of those second level players. To put him in conflict. That linebacker right there, putting him in conflict where we've blocked out, we've created an extra gap, all right, with this guy inserting, we've created an extra gap that he can't fill. You understand? Now there's a gap on either side of him, and there's only one defender to fill it. All right, that's the whole idea behind insert scheme. All right, now examples of insert scheme are the lead, which is what you're looking at here, and the ISO, which is very similar to a lead. And then there's also dart. So if you had a dart play, the person that's inserting there is no longer this fullback here. Now you're taking this fullback probably and blocking back here, and this tackle pulling to lead to that play side. So, but that's the dart play. All right, Baylor is a team that's really, a few years back, probably 3 or 4 years back, was a big one of their plays. Great play. But a lot of teams run ISO, NFL, college, whatever. Insert scheme is big in old school football too, so it's one you'll need to know if you're going into coaching. Uh, let's take a look at it. All right, so here's one right here, and you'll see this guard pull. This is North Dakota State again. All right, but you'll see this guard pull, but it's just the way they're working this double team here. They're still assigned. It's us two for those two right here. They decide to pull. Doesn't mean it's down and around. This is still an insert scheme because you'll see these guys play side base block, one-on-one blocks. This guy's base blocking. This guy is pulling around for this guy, but he's just doing that because that gives him the best angle for him. Everybody else is base blocking. You've got this fullback back here, like we talked about. He is inserting, which, hence the name of the scheme, for this play side linebacker, creating conflict for this guy right here. That's what it's all about. Right? Forcing these guys back here to get involved in run game, to stop the run game, because somebody's got to account for that extra gap. All right, so that's the basic philosophy behind that. But here we'll take a look at this. There we go. That guy right there is inserting for this play side linebacker. You can see it, creating extra space. Great, not a touchdown play, but still, a gain of 4 yards, which, you know, everything in football, a run play is designed to get 4 yards. 4 yards is successful. If we're calling a run play and it's 6 yards out and we get 4 yards and we didn't get the first down, well, we should have called a play to get 6 yards. Doesn't mean we'll always get 4 yards, or doesn't mean we'll only get 4 yards. There's big run plays, but that's the goal. Get 4 yards out of it. All right. Here's another one. Here's an ISO. All right. Here's an ISO right here. Same deal. We've got a bunch of guys base blocking, base block, however you do it. Base blocking over here, base blocking back there to that guy, and then we've got somebody inserting for that linebacker, putting him in a point of conflict where he's got to fill 2 gaps, like we talked about, and there's only one person to do it. All right, create conflict in the defense that way. Force these guys to get involved, and we'll get to later why we're doing that. All right. But there you go. You see a bunch of base blocks. You see an insert. Again, it's not a touchdown, but you forced this guy right here. The big thing is you forced this guy right here, the safety, to get involved. And now we've got other plays that will work better because we've done that. Now they're having to account for that extra gap. All right. Here we'll get into that. All right. So run scheme variations. Okay. And when I say run scheme variations, I'm talking about the things that make run plays continue to work. Defensive staffs, that's all they do all year long is, what do teams run on offense? How do we stop those things? And it's usually the best play that you've got. So, like North Dakota State, we talked about, they run power most of the time. The Rams, the 49ers, they run outside zone, wide zone most of the time. So the defenses that they play are spending all year trying to figure out how do we stop those. So the offense's job is to figure out ways, little change ups off of that to try to create conflict in the defense. All right, to try to use those things the defense is trying to do against them. All right, but this is what makes the run game work. This forces the defenses to stay simple and not scheme up different ways to beat the offense. Offensive schemes. Examples of these are, big examples are, there's option teams out there. Some teams do it or they don't. But where you're reading basically one of the, 5 guys, where you're reading one of the 7 guys, 6, 7 guys in the box, from tackle to tackle, linebackers and defensive linemen. You're reading one of those guys and forcing him to make a decision, and then the ball is going to go outside or inside depending on what that guy does. There's also run pass options where you're still reading a guy. It's still an option technically, but you're not reading one of those box defenders most of the time. Now you're reading a guy outside, a safety, a cornerback, a nickel, if you want to call it that, rover, whatever you want to say. You're reading somebody outside, one of those guys lined up over a wide receiver or deeper than, just the second level, 4 or 5 yards, 6 yards than the ball, deeper than that. And then there's also a big one, a huge one. I mean, for a long time, and it's not listed there, but the biggest one probably is play action passes. Offenses are built off of play action passes. So that defense, like we talked about, they have to honor the run game. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of examples of this. First off is options. All right, options, like we said, they're creating conflict with those defenders that are reading. Read defenders. This prevents defenses from playing too aggressively. Okay, so if you've got, like the option that's drawn up here on the picture, their first read guy is this guy right here, the defensive end. These guys are made. I mean, they are built. They are recruited, signed if you're an NFL team. They are trained all year long if you're a high school guy or junior high guy to be aggressive here. They're lined up outside. They're fast guys. They're trying to get to the ball fast. All right, option game is going to put that guy in conflict. If he's going to play really hard, well, guess what? We're going to pull the ball. If he's going to tackle that running back, that ball carrier, we're going to pull the ball and take it outside of him. He can't. We're making this guy. He can never be right. That's the whole point of the option game. All right. Whether we're reading that guy that we're pointing to then, or some plays you're reading, the linebacker or whatever. We won't get too deep into that, but you're forcing one defender. And in high school, when I coached high school, we were going to force the best defender on the field. If they had a guy that was signing with an SEC team the next year, I have guys blocking up front that are going to be working on the farm next year. We don't want to block that guy. All right, we can't block that guy. Let's put him in a point of conflict and read that guy with options. And now it doesn't matter what he does, he can't be right. So that's the whole idea behind that. And it forces defenses. The big thing is if the defense comes into a week and they're going to face an option team, they know that they have to know their option assignments. All right, they can't just have a gap fit, which is the simplest thing to do. They also have to, if this guy right here, the quarterback, pulls the ball, now there has to be somebody assigned to go tackle that quarterback. All right. If this guy that you can see coming in motion around is circling the defense, somebody's got to be assigned to tackle that guy if the quarterback pitches it to him right here. All right. So that's another thing that complicates things for the defense. It forces them to teach more during the week. And, the more you have to learn, the more you have to think out there on the field with as fast as things happen in college and professional football, the more likely you are to not get there when you need to be there to make a play. All right. So there's different kinds of options. There's read options, which we'll get into, and there's triple options, and there's jet sweeps where you're just, you basically, we'll get into that, but we won't see a clip of it. But basically, you're just reading a linebacker. If he runs with the guy that you're bringing in motion right here, you hand it off. You pull it and you run it with the quarterback, or hand it off back here. If he doesn't, then now you're gonna give it to that sweep guy. But don't going to get too in depth. But that's the basic idea of that. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, what you're going to see right here, and this is Georgia State. They're a big option team. All right, you're going to see this quarterback right here. This is just a read option. All right, this is an example of a read option. He is going to be reading this guy right here, this defensive end. All right, so he's the read guy. He's trying to determine, is this guy going to tackle this running back? Is that guy we're reading going to tackle him? If he's working hard inside and he's going to tackle him, now I'm going to pull it and I'm going to run right outside of that guy. All right, he can't tackle. This guy right here can't tackle the running back and tackle me. All right, so that's the whole thing. We're going to force him to not be where the ball is going to be if we think that's the best player, or that's just what our scheme says. Now, you'll see it right here. That guy, that defensive end, he squeezes hard. All right, he's going to tackle that running back, or he's going to make it very hard for him to run the ball effectively. So the quarterback's going to pull it. He's going to run. You can see now somebody else got to be accounting for him. He's made a lot of yards downfield just by making that one defender wrong. All right. Here's another look at it. This is Georgia State again. Like I said, they are a big option team. You'll see the motion coming in, but same thing. All right. The offensive line is blocking zone scheme, inside zone scheme. You can see the quarterback is while he's putting that ball in that running back's stomach. All right, he's got his eyes back here to this guy, this defensive end. If he's going to tackle that ball carrier, he's going to pull it. You'll see again here. All right, he is. So he pulls it. He runs. Great. All right, but ignore that guy in motion. The read option play is all about just basically there's one pull. You got me? He's gonna either pull it or give it. That's it. All right. So that's the gist of that. All right. Um, so imagine that guy wasn't in motion. All right, here we go. This is an example of a triple option. All right, where now there's three things involved. There's three reads involved. Okay, so now what we're talking about is we've got which they've got three backs in the backfield, so this is kind of more old school. All right, but same thing. Quarterback's the guy reading. All right, we are reading this guy right here, a guy on the first level, the defensive end, first thing outside this guy's hips, whatever you want to say. All right, but he's reading him. That's his first read. That's his first option. He squeezes. He's going to tackle the running back. Fine. He pulls it. He doesn't give it to this guy running. Now he pulls it, and he's going to run outside. All right. Then he's going to take his eyes to another guy, since there's three options, right? This guy right here is going to be blocking, taking care of that guy. He's going to be reading the second level defender, usually just a linebacker over there. All right. But if he sees that this linebacker, as he works out here, is going to make the play on him, he's got a guy out here that is his pitch man. All right. So, boom. He's pulled the ball. He runs outside here. This guy comes down to tackle him. All right, now he's going to pitch the ball to this guy outside here, forcing another player to get involved to tackle this guy. So we're forcing three of these guys to make the play. All right, whether it's him or him, depending on what they do. All right, but we're forcing three defenders to make a play, not just one. All right, so let's take a look at it here. This is the triple option. Okay, you can see he's going to make a play, and I pointed the wrong lead back, but they're blocking inside zone up front. He thinks that defensive end is not going to make the play, so he gives it, but you can see what's playing out over here, all right? Just like he's trying to make the defense think that he's pulled it and he's going to do the triple option, but his eyes are going to go to this guy right here, and then if that guy comes up to make the play on him, he's going to pitch the ball to this guy right here, who's going to take it and run. So that is the triple option, and this is a give, but that's what's playing out there. All right, but it divides the defense, forces the guys to know their assignments. Great play. All right, here's just a little jet sweep. Basically, the quarterback here is reading. You're bringing a guy from outside, and if you're an old flex bone guy or something, that guy's usually lined up like right here doing the same thing. But no matter where he starts, he's getting to the same point is the point. He's going to come in motion here. This quarterback's going to snap a little bit early. When he gets there, he's going to be looking at whoever it is, defensive end or second level defender, and he's going to be seeing, is that guy going to go try to make a play on that guy? Is he going to be able to run this guy down? If he is, he's going to keep it, and he's going to get upfield with it or hand it off here, depending on what the offense is trying to do. If he's not, if he freezes, all right, or sometimes it's just if these guys don't adjust to get the numbers they need over there, he's going to give it to this guy right here going across. All right, but what you're going to see, this is called jet sweep motion right here, right across. This guy's coming right across the quarterback's face, and then he's reading somebody, and here you can see he gives it because of what the defense does, and you've got lead blockers out there for that guy. Again, this keeps the offense effective. It keeps these defenders honest. All right, they're not all able to commit to tackling this guy because they know this guy's running full speed. He's gonna be able to get outside of us fast. Okay, so those are the little variations that we're talking about. When we talk about run scheme variations, like we've talked about before, these guys up front, they're not really doing much different. Right? These guys are still basically blocking zone scheme. Yeah, you're releasing this guy to get outside and help with the jet sweep, but these guys are blocking up front like they normally do for inside zone. All right. But it's forcing that defense to have to account for this guy coming in motion. Run scheme variations. That's what we're talking about. How do you make conflict, create conflict with the defense? All right. These are just some different ways. But you can see, they have to account for several things. They're able to gain some yards there. Great play by BYU. All right. Here's another variation of the same thing, some jet sweep. All right. This is out of what we call the I backfield, where you've got the quarterback lined up under. You've got a fullback right behind him, and then right behind that fullback, which creates an I when you're looking at it from the back. All right, that's I backfield. That's the formation, but they're doing the same thing here. Okay, they're doing the same thing. They're just faking. All right, there's no read here, but he is going to fake it to the running back right here. All right, and they're bringing this guy around in motion to give him the football to create conflict in the defense. That's all they're trying to do. All right, they're going to try to make sure that this defense knows that they'll give it to this guy back around, and it's probably one of the fastest guys on the field, right? Usually. All right, they're going to give it to him, and he's going to outrun your defense. But it forces these guys here. We can't get involved in the run game here because if we do and they hand it off here, that guy's going to outrun us. All right, so that's what this is the Green Bay Packers. That's what you see here. All right, they're going to fake it to that run back, pitch it to him, and now you can see these guys right here, these two defenders. They hesitate for a second. Just a step or two to try to get involved in that inside run game, and they're in trouble now. You got me now. Now they can't make a play. So that's the kind of conflict that stuff like this creates. And that's what keeps your run game good and effective. All right, RPOs, run pass options. All right, there you're talking about somebody outside the box, which we're talking about in the box. We're talking about tackles hip to tackles hip and about 5 yards deep. All right, we're talking about somebody outside the box. Sometimes it's a linebacker that's hipped out. Sometimes it's a safety lined up deep or even a corner or whatever. But you're talking about reading somebody outside the box. And your decision here is going to tell you whether to either give the ball to the running back, run the football, or this is what makes it different from just a regular option is now we have an option to throw the football. All right, I'm going to pull it, and yeah, I may run a little bit, but I'm going to throw the football to somebody. All right, run pass option. All right, and these run pass options, it's a big buzzword in football right now. Has been for about the past 10, 15 years. But the big thing with this is there's several different reads, decisions in other words, that the quarterback makes before the snap is happens and after the snap. Pre-snap reads, like we say right here, and post-snap reads, depending on what the play is. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of examples of this right here. We've got Oregon right here. Oregon's a pretty good, effective offense. They run wide zone really well, and they run their RPOs really well. This is from a couple of years ago. But the person they're trying to put in conflict right here, the defender they're trying to put in conflict right here is the guy that you can see circled. Okay, so the quarterback's got his eyes on that man right there. All right, so what they've done here is they've brought this man right here in motion. All right, they're bringing him across. And they can tell because this defender is following him that this guy is assigned to cover that guy in the pass play, period. All right, it's a man defense. I think y'all probably heard about that from another one of the coaches in a Zoom, but that's the deal. This guy's assigned to that guy. They know that if this guy's running fast and this guy's going to have to avoid the defenders, all right, and he's going to not be able to keep up. So their next thing is he going to get help from this guy? All right, or is this guy going to go with him? If they don't go with him, then they're going to say, all right, this guy's going to outrun this guy right here. Throw the ball to him. That's the option. That's the read right here. All right, so you can see, pulls it, throws to that man, knowing, nobody can get there. They've also got a blocker assigned to that guy that's coming with him in motion because it's man coverage. And there you go. You can see it. Pull it, throw it, easy yards. It's all about numbers. And at the end of the day, whether you're pre-snap reading, post-snap reading, whatever, it's do we have more guys over there on offense than they do on defense? All right, here's another example of an RPO. You can see this guy right here is the one that's that's going to get the ball depending on the quarterback's read. But this guy right here that's circled, that's the guy this offense is reading. All right, does he widen out here to cover this guy here? Because we know this guy right here is going to be too deep. That's what the offense knows. All right, is this guy going to go out there and cover him? Take away the pass? If he does, fine. We're going to give the football. This running back's going to take it and go inside zone. All right, if he doesn't, we're going to take the ball, pull it, and we're going to throw it to that guy right here. All right, so let's take a look at it. There you go. That guy, he doesn't run hard inside to take the run, but he doesn't go anywhere. So they know, okay, we'll take the easy 5 yards. Just throw it out there. All right. Here's another look at it. This is Oklahoma from I think 2 years ago, I believe. A lot of these guys on this video right now are in the NFL right now. These are great players. All right, but you can see who the guy they're putting in conflict with this RPO is. All right, they're looking to see whether or not he covers this guy outside. If he does, fine. We'll give the football. We've got our inside zone scheme inside. We'll give it. All right, if not, we've got this guy blocking out over here. All right, boom, he's blocking this guy out. If this guy doesn't widen to make the play on this guy right here, we're going to throw him the ball. All right, so all he's doing is stepping up for a step, coming back in here. Quarterback, if he makes the right read, is going to throw it out here to this guy right here. Boom. And now he's going to catch it and try to get as many yards as he can. That's the run pass option in this play. Good. 4 yards. Take it, right? All right, here we go. This is Oklahoma again. Different player they're putting in conflict. So this, as you get closer to the goal line right here. All right, as you get closer to the goal line, which is called the red zone when you get inside this 20-yard line here. All right, the closer you get to the goal line, the more these safeties, these guys that are usually lined up at 10 yards, 12 yards, the more they're able to get close to the line of scrimmage and get involved in the run game. Boom, fill here, whatever. All right, so as you get closer to that goal line, teams, especially Oklahoma, they're going to put those guys in conflict. So basically, you can see the guy that we've circled. That's the guy that they're putting in conflict here where he can't be right. He comes and helps and he gets involved in the run game. Boom, we've got a post here. We're going to throw the ball to him, right behind where that defender's vacated. If he doesn't, if he hangs back right here and he's going to cover this post player here, now we know he can't get involved in the run game. Let's go ahead and give it. At least we've got numbers inside. So that's the basic idea about this. All right, we're talking about red zone RPOs. Boom, right there. Should have caught it. Would have been an easy touchdown. Here's another example right here. We've got Oregon doing it. All right, sorry, skipped ahead a little bit. All right, but you can see who we've got in conflict here. It's not holding for some reason, but this is the guy right here we're putting in conflict. All right, it's an easy read. We got inside zone that we're blocking up front. The offensive line doesn't know whether they're gonna give it or not. As far as they know, they're giving it every single time to this running back, and they're blocking, anticipating that. All right, they're blocking inside zone, all working in the same direction. All right, so let's take a look at it. They're putting this guy in conflict right here, that linebacker. All right, if that linebacker or this safety even right here, if they come down hard and they're going to be able to cover this guy right here, now we've got numbers to give the ball inside. We've got 5 guys up front to block the 5 defenders right here. All right, that's the basic idea. If they do go with him, they'll give it. All right, like I said, if they don't go with him, like they don't in this clip, now we've got a guy that's uncovered. We're going to throw the ball to him, or at least if this guy's covering him, he's going to be able to catch the ball and get 4 or 5 yards before he's even there to make a play. So that's the basic idea in this RPO. RPO stands for run pass option. Again, we have the option to run the ball or pass the ball. Easy, all you're doing is trying to outnumber the defense in whatever that area is you're trying to do it. All right, but the big one is, and just about, some teams don't do the option, read option, triple option, whatever you're talking about. Some teams don't do run pass options, the RPOs, but most teams that really run the football, basically all good teams, are going to run some type of play action. All right, which means you're showing the defense a run. All right, you're making them think that you're giving the football and running the football. And then you're pulling it and throwing it in reality. All right, so that forces all these players here, all these players that aren't in what we said is the box here, all right, to honor the pass and not get involved as fast. They got to make sure the quarterback hasn't pulled the ball and isn't running with it, or dropping back to throw it. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at that play action. This is one of the most effective plays in football. And if you're good in the run game, this is your best play probably most of the time. All right, you see the Packers here, and watching this game. All right, they've just run wide zone about 4 or 5 times in a row against this defense. All right, this is the New Orleans Saints. All right, and they've taken some chunk yards against this team. All right, just given the wide zone over there. All right, so now the defense, these guys up front, these 6 players right here, they haven't been able to get it done. So now they're having to get guys here involved in there to make sure that they're able to stop the offense, tackle this guy back here close to the line of scrimmage. Maybe get him in the backfield, or at least keep him from breaking a big run. All right, but as they do that, now they're getting out of their pass assignments. All right, that's the whole idea behind a play action, run play action. All right, play. So let's take a look at that. You see the offensive line, they're not leaving the line of scrimmage. They're not getting downfield, all right, which makes it a legal play. All right, they're just taking these guys, driving them by. All right, the quarterback, this is called a naked boot. All right, and they call it a boot because he's faking run here, and he is running to the backside right here. It's a naked boot because there's not like a guy out here coming to protect him and block him. He's on his own. He's faking the run play. He's running out this way. That's a naked boot. All right, but it's a type of play action run pass. All right, but he faked the run play, and now you see you've got defenders hesitating because of the run action. All right, they've got their eyes in the backfield too long, allowing this guy, even if it was just for a second, this guy's able to beat him over the top. He was able to outrun that guy because he had to hesitate for just long enough to make sure it wasn't a run. And there you'll see, they broke off a 47-yard play, where normally that defender probably could cover this, bigger guy, bigger, a little bit slower than this guy, offensive player over here. But just making him hesitate for a second frees him up to be able to get some space on that guy and get open. And you can see Aaron Rodgers, one of the best to ever do it, putting it right where it has to be, to allow that guy to make a play. Play action passes. There you go. All right. Well, that concludes this presentation. Guys that are going to be, if there's guys or young ladies that are planning to coach football in high school or college or whatever, I would encourage you. You know where our offices are, right there in the back of Estes Stadium. Come find me. We can arrange some type of time to set up. I'll answer any questions you have. But I was a high school coach at one point, coached junior high and stuff like that. So I'm always willing to try to help guys out. If this is what they have a passion for, it's what I have a passion for. I want to help out those guys and young ladies any way that I can. So, just come to Estes Stadium, ask for Coach Boykin. We'll arrange some time for me to sit down with you, and I'll try to teach you as much as I can or answer any questions that you have. Enjoy Coach Fodio's class, and go Bears.